The scorching coffee splattered across my pristine blouse, its heat intentional and searing. Whoops, Jessica smirked, holding her now empty cup. Maybe you should pay attention to where you're going. But then again, cleaning up messes must come naturally for you, right? Just like your father, apples don't fall far from the tree. The employees of Morgan Industries around us feigned indifference, but I could feel their stares. It was just another Monday morning at the corporate headquarters where my stepsister, a rising executive, had everything handed to her, while I was the latest addition to the maintenance team. If only they knew the full story. My real father, James Morgan, not Jessica's father, who married my mom 3 years ago, was much more than a janitor. James had founded Morgan Industries 30 years ago, growing it from a small venture into a Fortune 500 company. To shield me from his rivals and opportunists, he kept my existence a secret, living modestly as the building's maintenance manager while quietly controlling the company through his board. He passed away 6 months ago, taking those secrets with him, or so everyone thought. I wiped the coffee from my blouse, recalling his final words. Emma, my clever girl, wait 6 months. The letter will explain everything. Promise me you'll stick to the plan. So I waited. I watched as my new stepfather, Robert, Dad's trusted CFO, and his beloved daughter, Jessica, seized more control of the company, slowly dismantling everything my father had built. They were laying off loyal employees and cutting corners for profit. Meanwhile, I cleaned the floors, the letter Dad left with his lawyers constantly on my mind. You missed a spot. Jessica's voice pierced my thoughts. She stood there, basking in her moment of superiority. Though I suppose attention to detail isn't really your strong point. Not everyone can have both beauty and brains. I looked at her closely, designer clothes, flawless makeup, a smug smile. She resembled the corporate predator she strived to be, everything my father despised about the modern business world. You're right, I said quietly, gabbing at my blouse. Not everyone can have it all. Some of us just have to settle for expensive clothes and a hollow heart. Her expression darkened. Watch your mouth, little janitor. Daddy might have given you this job out of pity, but I can take it away just as easily. Your daddy, I corrected, relishing the confusion on her face. Not mine. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Chin, Dad's lawyer. It's time. 6 months to the day. The waiting was over. Excuse me, I said to Jessica, who was still trying to process my remark. I have a board meeting to attend. A board meeting? She laughed loudly, catching the attention of several employees. In that coffee-stained blouse? Don't be ridiculous. The board doesn't waste time with maintenance staff. I smiled, thinking of the letter in Mr. Chin's office. We'll see about that. The next hour passed in a blur, meeting Mr. Chin, opening Dad's letter with trembling hands, reading his explanation of how, on my 18th birthday, he'd secretly transferred 51% of the company's shares to me, hiding them in a complex web of shell companies for the perfect moment. The company is yours now, Emma, he'd written. I know you'll lead it with both intellect and compassion, just as your mother would have wanted. Stepping into the boardroom felt like entering an entirely different world. 12 board members in expensive suits surrounded a massive table, with Robert at the head. Jessica stood behind him, still wearing her smug expression, though she clearly didn't know why I was there. What is this? Robert demanded as Mr. Chin and I entered. This is a private meeting. Actually, Mr. Chin said smoothly, setting his briefcase on the table. Miss Morgan has every right to be here. She is the majority shareholder of Morgan Industries and has concerns about the company's recent direction. The room erupted into chaos. Robert stood, face flushed red. Jessica's makeup couldn't conceal her shock. The board members began speaking over each other, papers rustling, all demanding explanations. This is absurd, Robert shouted. I've known James Morgan for 20 years. You didn't have any children. That's where you're mistaken, I said, my voice calm but firm. He had me, and he knew exactly what kind of man you were, Robert. That's why he made sure I have the power to stop you when the time came. Mr. Chin began passing out documents, birth certificate, share transfers, and Dad's letter, all explaining everything. With each page, Robert grew visibly paler. This can't be legal, Jessica whispered, but I could see the panic in her eyes. She was realizing, for the first time, that the janitor's daughter she'd mocked was now her superior. Oh, it's completely legal, Mr. Chin assured her. In fact, Miss Morgan has already filed paperwork to reverse the recent layoffs and conduct a full audit of all financial decisions made in the past 6 months. I took a seat at the table, coffee-stained blouse and all, and addressed the board. My father built this company on integrity and fairness, I said. It's time we return to those values. You can't do this. Robert slammed his fist on the table. You're just a janitor. You know nothing about running a company. Actually, I pulled my MBA diploma from my bag. I graduated top of my class at Harvard Business School. Dad insisted I learn every aspect of business before taking over, including, I smiled at Jessica, how it feels to be treated like you're insignificant. The board members now looked at me with new respect. They had worked with my father for years, and now they could see his strength in me and my resolve. There will be changes, I announced, standing up, starting with a complete review of all executive roles. Those who have been abusing their power might want to start updating their resumes. Jessica grabbed her father's arm, her designer bracelets clinking. Daddy, do something. But Robert was already retreating toward the door, his empire crumbling. He'd married my mother for her connection to the company, never realizing that connection was through me, not her. One more thing, I called after them. Jessica, since you're so keen on cleaning up messes, why don't you start with the coffee you spilled earlier? The cleaning supplies are in the maintenance closet. Though I added, unable to resist, attention to detail isn't really your forte. The boardroom door slammed behind them, leaving a peaceful silence. Well, one of the senior board members said after a beat, James would have loved that. A quiet laugh rippled through the room, breaking the tension. These people had been Dad's trusted allies all along, and they had watched and waited, just like me. I opened my father's worn leather portfolio and said, shall we talk about the future of Morgan Industries? But this was just the beginning, not the end. A much bigger war was about to unfold, one that would challenge everything my father had taught me about family, business, and justice. The following 2 weeks felt like a corporate battlefield. Robert and Jessica didn't back down. They fed stories to the press about an inexperienced janitor attempting a hostile takeover. They rallied shareholders against me. Jessica even showed up at my mother's house, pretending to cry about how I was tearing her family apart. But my father had prepared me well. For every move they made, I had a counterattack ready. When they went to the press, I released Dad's personal videos, decades of footage where he explained his plan, his reasons for keeping me hidden, and his disapproval of Robert's leadership. The media went wild. Secret hair reveals billionaire father's hidden life. When they tried to sway shareholders, I presented my Harvard credentials and a comprehensive 5-year growth plan that balanced profitability with ethical integrity. The shareholders weren't just convinced, they were eager to back me. But Jessica's visit to Mom, that was a different kind of fight, personal. How could you do this to Robert? Mom cried over the phone. After everything he's done for us? Everything he's done for us? I couldn't hold back. Mom, he married you to get closer to Dad's business. Did you never wonder why he proposed right after meeting Dad? That's not true. Robert loves me. Then why did he file for divorce this morning? Silence fell on the line. What? Mom's voice trembled. Mr. Chen found the divorce paperwork filed by Robert's lawyers. He claimed irreconcilable differences and was asking for half of your assets. I paused. Including the house Dad left you? I heard the sound of glass shattering. Mom? I asked, concerned. I'm fine, she replied, but her voice had hardened. I just dropped something. Emma, tell me everything, from the beginning. And so I did. I told her about Dad's secret role as the company's founder, about Robert's efforts to undermine Dad's ethical practices, about the offshore accounts and shell companies, about how Dad had made me work my way up from the bottom, while secretly earning my MBA, teaching me the ins and outs of the business. James, Mom whispered when I finished. He always said he had a plan. Even on his deathbed, he said it would all work out. He wanted to protect us. That's why he lived so simply, why he made me promise to wait 6 months before revealing the truth. And all this time, Robert and Jessica were using us to get closer to the company. I confirmed softly, Dad knew. That's why he set everything up this way. The next day, Mom arrived at my office with a pile of papers. I found these in Robert's home office, she said, her eyes red but resolute. I think they'll be useful. The documents outlined years of financial manipulation, unauthorized transfers, and offshore accounts. Robert hadn't just been ruining Dad's company, he'd been stealing from it. Mom, I gasped as I flipped through the papers. This is exactly what we needed. She straightened up, looking more like herself than she had in years. No one manipulates my daughter or disrespects my husband's memory like this. No one. The emergency board meeting that afternoon was one for the books. Robert and Jessica walked in, confident, probably expecting another round of media warfare. Instead, they were met by federal auditors standing alongside the board members. "What's going on?" Robert demanded. "This," I held up the stack of documents, "is evidence of massive financial fraud. The FBI is very interested in these offshore accounts you've been using." "Robert?" Jessica's face went white. "Daddy." But Robert was already backing toward the door, only to collide with two FBI agents. Robert Williams, one of the agents, said, "You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and financial misconduct. You can't do this." Jessica screamed as they led her father away in handcuffs. "We're family," she cried. "No," Mom said from the doorway, turning everyone's attention toward her. "You're not. And Jessica, I want you out of my house by tonight." The aftermath played out in ways both expected and surprising. Robert took a plea deal, agreeing to return the stolen funds in exchange for a reduced sentence. Jessica disappeared to Europe, though her Instagram still occasionally posted bitter messages about family betrayal. Mom sold the house and bought a cozy cottage by the beach, something she'd always wanted, but Robert had dismissed as beneath them. She started painting again, reconnecting with the artist she had once been before grief, and Robert's influence had taken their toll. As for Morgan Industries, we didn't just survive the scandal, we thrived. I reinstated Dad's ethical business practices, rehired the workers who had been laid off, and launched a foundation to support young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds. 1 year later, I sat in Dad's old office, now mine, staring at his photo on the wall. The same photo that had once sat on his maintenance cart, hidden in plain sight. "Miss Morgan," my assistant poked her head in. "The new maintenance team is here for orientation." I smiled, thinking of my younger self in that uniform. "Send them in. And Sarah, make sure the coffee machine and orientation have the good beans, not the cheap stuff." "Understood, Miss Morgan." "Oh, and this arrived for you." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a magazine, Forbes 30 Under 30. My face stared back at me, the headline reading, "The Hidden Hair: How Emma Morgan Transformed Her Father's Legacy." Dad would have hated the attention but loved the story. A story of integrity triumphing over greed, of patience overcoming arrogance, a story of a janitor's daughter who cleaned up more than just messes. I touched the framed maintenance badge on my desk, next to my Harvard diploma. Both were equally significant parts of who I had become, who Dad had helped me to be. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Proud of you, sweetheart." "We both are." I glanced at Dad's photo and smiled. He had given me more than a company. He had given me the wisdom to lead it with both strength and compassion, with success and integrity. Standing, I grabbed my blazer. It was time to welcome the new maintenance crew. You never know which one might be a future CEO in training. Some lessons, like some legacies, are best learned from the ground up. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Stay amazed.